Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are here to help you attain your goals, no matter what they are. It could be losing weight, stop smoking. It could be reducing anxiety. It could be making more money, believe it or not, and so much more, all achieved with hypnotherapy. What's actually happening during hypnotherapy? We've talked before here about what it isn't. It's not mind control. You're getting sleepy. None of that. It's just not. We've all talked about what it's not. Now we're going to talk about what it is. What is actually going on when somebody like she puts you in a hypnotic state to achieve your goals? And she is Melissa Darrington, and she's back with us today. How you doing?
Hi, good to be with you again, Steve. So wonderful to always share more information. And today we're going to bust those myths. We're going to help you to understand exactly what's going on when you're in hypnosis. What do you think about that? I
love it. And I didn't just drink the Kool-Aid. I guzzled it, because when I started doing hypnotherapy before we met, it was a game changer. It helped me connect the dots to the past, which dictates the future or the present. And I probably still need more hypnotherapy. You know, there's other things that I wonder about that maybe haven't been processed. Events, you know, we all have events in our life that maybe I've squashed and haven't really dealt with. And maybe that is impacting me and I'm not even aware of it. That being said, do people tell you that, or do you have those aha moments where somebody says, my gosh, I didn't realize that thing that happened 30 years ago is why I do this? Does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think just in general conversation, when someone engages with you, a lot of things will come out, but especially with someone like me who knows kind of how to ask the right questions, if you will. I like to find out the deeper understanding of what's going on. I've kind of always been that way, but yes, people will absolutely share so much more than you expect. And that definitely happens, as we talked about before in our sessions. And that's because when you're tapping into that subconscious space, you really start to slow down and understand what's going on underneath the surface of it all.
I could explain my view. I don't think it's necessary. You're about to hypnotize. It's always scary to hear that, you know, but it is what it is, because of the misconceptions that we have. What are you doing? What's going on there?
Yeah. So first of all, what I wanted to point out is that hypnosis is actually the oldest Western conception of psychotherapy, and it's actually been around for over 250 years. So I just wanted to point that out first of all. And so Dr. David Spiegel, who is a Wilson professor and associate chair of psychology and behavioral sciences at Stanford University, okay? And he says that this modality is actually underutilized.
Wow.
So he personally has hypnotized himself over 7,000 research clients and patients. And essentially, they have used functional magnetic resonance imaging and EEG. So like those, you know, hats they put on your head. So they're actually not only able to regulate like the frequency of the brain, but to able to look at different areas of the brain and see what was happening, what was being affected during hypnosis. Okay. The changes that were happening. So what I'm going to talk about today is those 3 changes that they were able to show that is happening during this process, and how that is actually affecting the way that you're thinking and feeling during this phase, if you will, when you're being hypnotized. So first of all, the reduction of activity in the anterior is going to get a little technical because these are Latin terms, but I will break it down for you just as good as I can. And if you have any questions, please ask me, because I do get it, but I do have a medical background, so this makes a lot of sense to me. So first of all, the reduction of activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, or that is the part of the salience network. Now, this is the C-shaped, but it's a downward facing C, okay? So the anterior would be the front part that we're talking about here. So this is the alarm system, okay? And this is basically, when you hear a loud noise like a clap or something like that, and then you think, oh, I better pay attention to that. So you either turn your attention to it, you jump, whatever the case may be, the reaction, right? So since activity is turned down during hypnosis, this allows, for that alarm system to not alert you to the way that you normally think about things. This allows you to be more open to thinking about things in a new way. Okay? So it opens your awareness up past what you've been open to this point, and now consider other options or other ways of thinking about things. Okay? So the second part of what happens is the hyperconnectivity, the increased connectivity, okay, between the prefrontal cortex, and that's that part of the brain that we know that makes big decisions and stuff like that. It's called the executive control network. So that and the insula, or the part between that connects the brains, the middle part of it, it's actually called the little island, is what it means, the insula. So this basically is the tissue in the middle of the brain that, get this was the coolest thing that I learned. It is the mind-body conduit. So this literally means that it helps the brain control the body as well as react to the sensations, the feeling sensations in the body. And that's called interoception in the medical field.
Wow. I had no idea that there were sections, receptors, whatever they are in our brains.
Yeah. So we're shutting down all of those main components, if you will, that are more focused in the conscious way, and we're tapping more into the subconscious. So we're tapping into our body, we're tapping into our feelings, and how that is showing up in our bodies, primarily around the subject that we're addressing, if you will. Okay. So you are hyper connected to your body during hypnosis. Okay. We're shutting down the alarm system. We're connecting more with our body. Okay. So
that makes perfect sense, because we're always on alert. We don't realize it, but we are. We are. And it's, you got to, put down the weapons, if you will, in your mind, so that you can see everything around you.
And when you breathe, when you slow down, and that is one of the ways of helping to re-regulate the nervous system, and also to slow down your mind and allow you to really think about things and process things the way that makes more sense, as opposed to reacting to it.
I want to share, before we continue, for anybody that's just about to check out, we're like, oh, that's like, no, I can't do that. Is it true that we're in a hypnotic state on our own?
Yeah.
Right before we fall asleep?
Absolutely. And that's the best time to set up any kind of suggestions that you want to start to, manifest in your life. And what we help to do during hypnosis is we explore all of that with you and help you to find the suggestions and the, what is good for you, because everybody is so individual that way. And that's why I was saying, with traditional hypnosis, there are a lot of good suggestions that we can put in there. But if you're not in the right place to accept that,
right.
And so that's why it's really important to be aware of all of those key components, getting the client in the right space so that they are open to those new ways of thinking and consideration.
Gotcha. Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off, but just,
you're good.
I want people to know that. And this is a classic, and it's the example has been used before. You're driving on your way to work, you get to work, like, how did I even get here? I don't even remember driving. Like, what the heck? I'm like, could I have crashed? No, you were aware. You were just in call it a hypnotic state.
Absolutely, because you're going through a routine, especially if you're driving the same way to work every day.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of time for your mind to drift off and kind of think about other things. And it's a perfect opportunity to be put into a hypnotic state, which is exactly why you're always told not to listen to things like hypnosis when you're driving and doing things like that. That's
100%. Okay. All right. Back to what you got.
Yeah. So number 3, the inverse connectivity. I know this is all kind of like sounding crazy and weird, so that's why I'm trying to explain it in layman's terms as well. But the inverse connectivity between the executive control, which is the prefrontal cortex, or making those big decisions, right? And the posterior portion of that C, the singular cortex, right? The back of the brain. So this is the default network that involves self-reflection and things like who we are, what we think we should be doing, and what others think about us, things like that. This is where we're doing those kinds of things. And so what this means is that you can sort of turn off the usual assumptions about yourself, how you think about yourself, how you think about things, right? And who you are and all of that good stuff, and try out a different person, a different schema, a different way of being and doing things. So that part is now more open.
Is it similar to best analogy? The door has opened to that part of your brain that now you are able to access using your help.
Doesn't that absolutely make sense? Because that was shut before. That's why you were never able to access it and be able to do the things you know you should be doing, perhaps, but for some reason just can't seem to find yourself doing.
Or not doing, like smoking.
That too.
Yeah. It's basically you're holding the key right here to our mind to allow us to access it.
Yes.
It's not that you're getting in there and you're doing it. All right, I'm done. Have a great day. No, we're doing it.
I'm helping to allow the access. It's kind of like leading the horse to water, but they have to drink still.
100%. Yeah. What else should we know?
So what I was going to say is, so what's great about this area, is it is a great therapeutic opportunity. And that's why hypnosis is so great for this type of, reversing, if you will, of these blocks and removing these things from our lives that we want to get past. So highly focused attention essentially, again, allows for, and this is what I found really cool, disassociation. And we were talking about that. And that's a big part of the work that I'm involved with the company I just started working with. Disassociation, as we talked about, especially in trauma, we essentially, so when it talked about that, it said it's putting outside of our conscious awareness things that would ordinarily be in consciousness or our mind. So, just like in trauma, where it's kind of like you're disassociated from what you know and feel should be the right way of something occurring or happening, but that's not what's happening. So you have to disassociate, right? And protect yourself as best as you can in that moment. This allows you to do that disassociation, to move back into a space of healthy and healing ways of thinking and being. So then this empowers you to then make that switch, remove those blocks, open that door, however you want to look at it, and be able to access now that way of being able to do things that does support the direction that you want to go in.
So to illustrate a little bit more what we're talking about here, when we say disassociate, give an example of that. Let's say situation from your past, and now you're disassociating because you want a certain outcome. But is there a time where that's question one, can we do that? But is there a time where you want to associate with something for a favorable outcome using hypnosis? Because I got the first one in my mind, having done this before and connected my dots. I don't know about the association question on the other side there. I got nothing.
Yeah, it's basically clarity and contrast. It's opposites. You know what you don't want. Now we're wanting to explore what you do want. So we explore what it is, where you're at, what you don't want right now, right? And then we start to move towards and into that space where we help you to kind of prep you a bit, if you will, to be more receptive to that. And then we start moving you into that space. And through that, that's where, when you're in that space and when you're now open to those new ways, that's where that neuroplasticity, the cognitive flexibility aspect comes in. And that's where the real work is.
Can you give an example, just purely hypothetical, of why you want to disassociate?
Why you would want to disassociate?
Yeah.
Like a particular thing that someone would want to disassociate from?
Yeah.
The feelings around, if we're talking about, anxiety or trauma, just a way a person may feel, say, for instance, about taking tests. It's like, why does this stress crop up every time I need to go to take a test, even though I have studied, I know what I need to know. But for some reason, now when I'm in this place, I disassociate, if you will, and I can't think of any of the answers that I need. Well, we need to be able to be in the present moment and be able to access those areas of our understanding and knowing that would help us to be able to pass that test. So, when we're in that space, we're trying to figure out what is causing us to disassociate.
What could that potentially be? Again, this is just hypothetical.
Yeah.
Can you give a situation?
Absolutely. Just say like a very strong or mean teacher and never being kind or giving you positive feedback, always feeling like you can never, even with a parent perhaps, never feeling like that, you can do good enough. I made a B, I didn't make an A this time. You may be pretty proud of yourself because that could have been a really hard test, but now you've got someone that you perceive to be authority, someone of a higher, power than you, if you will, as a child, and you're getting that kind of criticism. That's going to definitely impact how your confidence, how you feel when you go into a test now as an adult, because it may not even be the thoughts that come up, could be, but definitely that anxiety is coming up.
Wow. And it's amazing how it can take just one situation. And I'm not knocking any teacher, but let's say, the teacher, listen, I don't know if I shared this example with you. It's like you brought back a memory. It's almost like I was just hypnotized.
There you go.
I had always wanted to be a cartoonist. Always wanted to do radio, but also I did cartooning when I was younger.
Yeah.
And 11th grade, I did this big painting, huge painting of a fall scene where the wheatgrass leads your eye right up to this rustic brown barn.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't do the sky. Just wasn't coming out to my satisfaction. I just had tries on it. And Ms. Meyer was the teacher. And she comes walking by. And I'm like, Ms. Meyer, can you help me out with this? This guy's not just coming. It's not coming out right. And she takes the brush. She goes, came out great. Came out great. And she was a wonderful person and teacher, but you don't forget these things. With her coffee breath, she said to me, "You know what you are?" I'm like, "What, Ms. Meyer?" 11th grade, by the way. She says, "You are an underachiever." And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And I carried that with me, among other things, that led to a life of perfectionism. And even the following year after that took place, my cartoons were on display at the local library, and the local paper did a story about it. And I have it on the wall. There's a quote in there that says, "I am a perfectionist," for me.
Aww.
Can't make it up. And I let that go about 3 or 4 years ago, but I carried it with me. And it wasn't just her. There were other things involved.
Yeah.
But I believe that incident was part of it. I still have the painting, by the way. But I believe that, but I'm giving an example. One little thing can change your life. Comment, 5 words, 8 words can change your life.
One little thing from Mrs. Meyer, or one little thing from me, or anybody else that you perceive to be important to you.
100%. It could be even you did that painting and you're 7 years old and you made the sky green.
Yeah.
And mom said, "That you did a great job. That's really Jimmy, Jimmy, the sky's blue. It's not green. You get better than that." And you're like, "Oh, this came out great. I love it." And now you got deflated. And then you carry that. Now you're 35. Now you're 45. Now you're 55. And that one little comment taken in a good way. Let's say your mom didn't want you to get made fun of at school, for a green sky, you internalized it. And that doesn't happen to everybody. Every every person, every kid is different. Another kid roll off their shoulder, wouldn't even matter, right?
Yeah, and you just pointed out you don't have to be a kid. You were in 11th grade. You were almost, 18 at that point. So
Yeah,
you can be affected at any age, again, by someone that you perceive either to be, that you respect or you appreciate, you love. And if someone gives you a comment like that, you can really take it personally and it can really make a big difference in your
sure.
life.
Sure. Maybe it worked in my favor. Maybe that pushed me to drive harder. I don't know. But I will say this, that the following year, 12th grade, I was voted class artist. So take that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There are positive ways that you can use it to influence your life. And, like I said, as long as we have the internal understanding that that was that teacher and maybe she just didn't even mean it that way, but
sure.
we can look at all of this when we're in hypnosis.
Right.
We can understand it now from a much different perspective than we could have at that time.
Right. And I'm sure this comes up too for people that you work with. They might not even realize an incident until they're under hypnosis.
Yeah.
And it's like they're seeing images like, wow, I didn't remember that until just now, Melissa. Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was connected or yeah, it is very
Hmm.
interesting. And that's the beauty of it. And you really only have the ability to access that if you can get someone to that place. So that's why sometimes, traditional counseling and therapies don't work because they're not focused on ensuring that you get to a more calm place to not just get out what you need to get out, but to then explore a different way.
It really is super cool. And you just brought back another memory in some regards where these things may be in your mind, but when you're under hypnosis, they're much clearer, like
Yes.
vividly clearer. Like you're back there again. Now, I know there could be some pain involved in that. It can happen. You can get emotional,
Absolutely.
but that's all part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You want to
Yeah.
go there but just so you can figure it out.
Yes. And it's
Mm.
part of the release that has to happen. Otherwise, we continue to repress it. And that's why we can't get past it.
Yeah. It's like, you have an emotion and you're holding it in. Like you have a beef with somebody. We call it in my world, the men's world, we have a list to clear with somebody and you haven't cleared the list. So now
Yeah.
you're holding it in. So now it's festering, but you don't even know it is because you didn't access it.
Yeah.
One final thought here. When you're under hypnosis, you can stop at any time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 If you wanted to open your eyes because you're interacting, you're conscious.
Yeah.
So literally you could open your eyes, you could get up and walk out, you could do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to because they do feel really good in that place. It's a place that we don't get to access a lot. And it really does actually feel good. Some parts of it, may not feel so good when we're working through it, but it isn't anything that can actually hurt you. You know what I mean?
100%. I will never, ever forget the moment I was faced with my younger self under hypnosis, literally like I'm sitting in a chair and there's me looking back at me as a 10-year-old and me telling myself, I got your back. I'll never let you down.
Yeah.
It still gets me. It's
Isn't
still,
that so cool?
oh, oh,
Wasn't that so reassuring though for you to tell yourself, as that child
huge.
and to receive that now and to really feel it as an adult?
Because we always say there's, the child in you, the inner child you need to work on. We're still kids.
Yes.
We grew up, but we never really, really grew up.
Not until we do all of the development and work that was supposed to be done to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah. When somebody says you're acting just like a child, you are.
Because we weren't given the tools to learn how to get past that point.
To move forward. Yeah. This is the tool. How do we find you?
You can find me at happymediumhypnosis.com. I'm on Google. You can do a Google search. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. Happy Medium Hypnosis LLC. 602-622-2684. any speaking engagements you'd like for me to come and teach about all of this information, because it's so vital to be able to have, calm people in the world. I guess this is the best way I can say that. But we all need to be able to really have these tools, accessible to us. So if you'd like to teach this to your employees, things of that nature, absolutely here for you.
Fantastic. Love what you do. Love how you do it. Also love the fact that you never stop learning. You're always taking courses, instruction, to take it to the next level. And there's a rumor floating around that next time we get together, there's a pretty good chance that I may be hypnotized live on this podcast.
Absolutely. That was the whole reason for doing this podcast today on what hypnosis is all about. I wanted to tell you exactly what is involved with that. So when we do the demonstration next week, you'll see what's going on. But yeah, it's very interesting you talked about that third person, because I did actually do a mini, very quick, like 5 minutes. I went into a little hypnosis session and I asked her how she felt afterwards. Same thing, that third person perspective. And she thought that was so cool. But yeah, that's exactly the experience you have. You're not that little kid anymore, but you can access that space, those emotions, what happened, and be able to change the narrative so you can now move forward.
It was amazing. It was like watching my childhood on TV. Thank you for today. Looking forward to get hypnotized next time.
Thank you, Steve. See you soon.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the mytuner-radio, online radio box, and simpleradio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.